Just as the other night, we are going to have the Pledge of Allegiance. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we get right into the meeting, I would just like to ask if everyone can please pause for a moment in remembrance of Neil Hoskins. Neil Hoskins passed away on March 18th. He was a U.S. Navy veteran. He was a resident of South River since 1954. And Neil was also a member of the South River Board of Education for 17 years. So let's just take a moment and pause to remember Neil. Thank you. Okay, in compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Laws of 1975 of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting of the South River Board of Education was provided in the following manner. On April 21st, 2020, the notice was delivered to the office of the South River Borough Clerk and posted at the Board of Education Administration Building. On April 21st, 2020, and April 25th, 2020, the notice was faxed, mailed to the following newspapers: Home News Tribune, Sentinel. On April 21st, 2020, the notice was posted at the South River Borough Clerk's office. Due to the state of emergency declared by the state of New Jersey and the United States government regarding COVID-19, this meeting is being held by way of video conference in order for the Board of Education to conduct its business. This meeting is being conducted by way of Zoom, and a link to the meeting invitation has been posted to the district website so the public may join and provide comment. Upon joining the meeting, all participants will have their audio muted. If anyone from the public would like to be recognized during open comment portions of the meeting, they may do so by using the chat feature in Zoom. Here, members of the public must send their name and address to the meeting host, Brian Dougherty. You will be recognized to speak by the host at the appropriate time, and your audio will be enabled. Participants for open comment will be called in the order that they were received. This meeting is being recorded, and a link to the meeting will be made available on the district website upon completion. Roll call, Mr. Kokoska.
Oh, he's muted.
Yeah, I'm looking. I'm getting him. Go ahead, Ken.
Okay, Mrs. Beck,
Yes, here.
Mr. Budson,
Here.
Mrs. Bush,
Here.
Mrs. Lell,
Here.
Mr. Nielsen,
Here.
Mr. Rosano,
Here.
Mr. Rajatar,
He's muted as well.
Muted.
he's here though. I haven't seen him, so I'll
there.
believe you.
He's here. He's
Okay.
muted.
Okay, Mrs. Urbanik,
Here,
Mrs. Cassiano.
Ms. Cassiano has been excused. Okay, tonight's meeting, the purpose is the public presentation of the South River School District 2020-2021 budget. At this time, we are going to open up the meeting for the reception of visitors. The public may address agenda items only. Please state your name and address in the chat section of the Zoom meeting. And please keep your comments to a 10-minute time limit. I'm going to wait a moment while Mr. Dougherty checks if any members of the public have posted any questions in the chat section.
So far, nothing, Mrs. Urbanic.
All right, thank you very much. We'll close the public portion, and at this time, I would like to turn the meeting over to our Finance Chair, Ms. Lowe.
This point of the meeting, would we rather do the presentations first, or would we prefer to read the resolution?
Presentation should be first.
That's what I thought. Okay, so we will have Ms. Zurcher and Mr. Kokoska will go through the presentation budget, and then we will discuss the finance resolution at the conclusion.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to have Brian get us to the first slide.
All right, we're getting there. There you go.
No problem. Second slide, actually. Thank you. And please note that this presentation will be posted on the front page of our district website at the conclusion of this meeting. So this budget was actually, this budget presentation was prepared all the way back in February. And it was prepared with the information that we had at that time regarding our state aid. So I just want to make that clear to the public that we are moving forward with the budget as it was planned with the state aid that we were informed we would receive back at that time. But I do want to make the public aware that we don't really truly know what's ahead. We have been just hearing that there may be some adjustments due to the current situation and conditions that could impact our state aid, our grants, etc. So I just want the public to keep that in mind. We're going to move forward with the presentation as is, just because we don't know what all of what may develop. And we are hopeful, of course, that we're able to put in place this budget that we've planned, but we will have to do another presentation and update the public if by any chance the allocations to our budget change in any way. So in terms of how we aligned our budget and what's in it, of course, is aligned with our district goals and objectives. With the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which pretty much guides what we are mandated to put in place for our students in terms of instructional programs. With the Every Student Succeeds Act, as well as our New Jersey Student Learning Standards. Next slide, Brian. In terms of what our budget process looks like, we hold meetings with the following stakeholders regarding our school district and resources. So the staff, each department supervisor and each building principal meets and discusses the budget with their staff. District administration, the Board of Education's Finance Committee, and then eventually it goes to the full board as well for discussion and consideration. Next slide, Brian. Thank you. So basically the administrators draft the budget that has to be consistent with the mandates and our district goals, but also with the feedback that they receive from their specific stakeholders. The Board Finance Committee, the business administrator, and myself as the superintendent, we reviewed the draft of that budget, and we're looking for, is the budget going to be effective in ensuring our students are successful? And is it efficient? Is it an efficient budget? And are we using and maximizing all of our resources? And then in terms of approval, the budget is approved by the Board of Education, as well as the Middlesex County Executive Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Carl Anderson. In terms of fiscal responsibility, of course, we maintain what's required in the cap. We look at increased costs for students with special needs. We look at what it takes to maintain our facilities. We look at what federal and state mandates are required. So for example, in terms of a state mandate that's very specific and relevant to this budget is the mandate to update many of our curriculum guides in several subject areas based on a change in standards. And so that's an example of something we would have to budget for in order to give our teachers the necessary time and our administrators to update those curriculum guides. We look at what our safety and security needs are, what our contract obligations are. We make sure that we are aligned with the standards, as I spoke before about our curriculum guides, as well as the Secondary Education Act and Student Needs Act. And then we're also obligated and responsible to our charter schools that our students attend. And you'll see that later on in a line in our budget. In terms of money saving efforts, there we go. In terms of money saving efforts, we look at co-ops and they give us special pricing for supplies, maintenance, equipment, etc. We explore revenue sources, and these come in a variety of formats. So for example, a revenue source might be a use of facility that we partner with somebody with. It might be, let's say, a provider who might provide us with resources or materials or professional development if we in turn agree to turnkey that professional development or hold certain professional development seminars, etc. We look at reduction in special education costs, and we do this by trying to see what we can provide for our students here in district. We're always looking to keep students in their home school in the least restrictive environment. So we look at what ways we can save by providing services in district as opposed to contracting those services out of district. And then we work with the commission as well. They provide an energy program cost savings as well as transportation services for us. So this budget specifically is going to make sure that our schools are fully staffed with qualified personnel. We're maintaining appropriate class size through this budget. We actually have a reduction in class sizes in several grade levels. We have an opportunity to update instructional resources and align those with new standards, and also to provide some instructional programs. So more specifically, we're looking at a new math series in grades K through 8. This is something that the district has been needing for quite some time. This past year, 1920, we were able to update our language arts K through 5 resource, and now we're excited to be able to do the same for the math, which is pretty outdated. We're looking at the Read 180 Intervention Math and ELA program in middle school. This is for our out-of-class resource students in special education. And it's really a great intervention for students that just need some additional support and a different learning path and approach. The Systems 44 Language Arts program in grades 3 through 12. This is for our students who need some significant support in our self-contained classes. Students can be extremely successful when they have the appropriate resources, and that's why we're looking to give our students, regardless of the program they're in, every opportunity to be successful. This next one we're really excited about, the drone certification course. We did already put out our electives for next year to students, and we received great feedback on the drone certification and a lot of students wanting to participate in this program. But basically what we're doing is we're providing a course for students in which once they complete the course as well as the exam requirements, that they'll be able to actually have a drone operating certificate, and they can graduate high school with this certificate and then move on to careers right out of high school with a drone certification course or a drone certification operating certificate. Really great opportunity for students moving to a college experience or, like I said, straight to the workforce. We're really excited about that one. Musical instruments. Our music program has been growing faster than we can keep up, especially at the upper elementary level. Just a lot of interest in our music program. So because of that, we're budgeting for additional musical instruments to really meet that demand and that student interest. Next, Brian. New risers at the high school. That goes along as well with the growth in our music programs. These new risers will supplement some of what we already have, add to what we already have, as well as replace some of them that are just in poor condition. Additional Chromebook devices. Now this presentation was, like I said, created before we went into distance learning. Certainly having now experience what distance learning is all about, we really see the importance of the of devices and making sure that we have enough for our students. This year in 1920, we went through our initiative of a one-to-one device to student at the high school, and we were very successful with that implementation. And so this budget calls for continuing in that steed, but at the younger grade levels. Enhancements for drama productions. We received feedback that our high school would like to really put on a just more elaborate drama production. And in order to do that, they need some budgetary support for everything from choreography to costumes to everything that it takes to put a great drama production on. And so we decided to budget for that. Again, it's directly linked to our student opportunities and interests. In terms of new hires, we're looking at a new special education teacher, or an additional special education teacher, I should say. A teacher of the deaf. We currently have several students who benefit from the services of a teacher of the deaf, but we currently contract that out. We believe that we can better serve our students if we have this staff member in district, and we can serve more students in a more enhanced way and really give an opportunity for our students who need this service the best chance at being successful. We're looking at an additional English as a second language ESL teacher. Our ESL program is growing faster than we can keep up. There are a lot of mandates in terms of teacher to student ratio in this regard. And so in order to keep up with that mandate, and in addition to doing what's right for kids, we're looking for an additional ESL teacher. We're also looking at an ESL ELA supervisor because our ESL department is becoming so large, and because there are so many new mandates and so many new things we need to address in ESL in terms of requirements to make sure that we are in compliance. And so those are the new hires for the upcoming year. In terms of proposed capital and maintenance projects, we're looking to restore the pedestrian bridge at the elementary and middle school. And we're looking at the primary school parking lot. This has been something I have received a lot of feedback from the community. There are a lot of issues with our current primary school parking lot in terms of its condition, as well as some safety concerns in that parking lot. So we're looking to remedy that through this budget as proposed over the summer, and hopefully open up with a new parking lot and a new just real management of that parking lot in September. In safety and security, we're looking at about $108,000 that we allocate to security personnel. This is in partnership with the borough, with SRPD, and this allocation goes towards our 4 full-time Class 3 officers who help to supervise each of our schools' security and keep our schools safe. So we're continuing with that service in this budget. In terms of other sources where we receive funding, the preschool expansion. So 2 years ago, we applied for the preschool grant. We were recipients of that grant. Each year, in order to continue to receive the grant, we have to apply and show how we're going to put forth an expansion in order to eventually be able to meet 95% of our community's preschool needs. And so we, again, continue to apply and show how we will expand the program. And as a result of that, we're looking at a $1.6 million allocation towards the preschool program, We provide free full-day preschool currently to 8 classes. We're looking at 10 for the upcoming year. 2 of those classes are over at our South Amboy location. The rest are in district. We're hopeful that this grant will continue, but again, we're waiting to hear some more information from the state in that regard. ESSA, those are title grants at almost $860,000. Our New Jersey School Insurance Group grant, this is one that we go for every year, about $13,000 there, and we usually allocate this to some sort of security safety measure. Our Acellus grant, we applied for this year, 1920. It goes into the 2021 school year. This grant at just about $43,000. These funds are allocated to our elementary STEM lab that was built and put in place in January, as well as course recovery opportunities for our students and online course opportunities. So if we have a student who is interested in taking a course that we may not offer, we have an opportunity to be able to use an Acellus account to be able to provide that course for the student. Or if perhaps we could use it for home instruction, things of that nature. So that's a really great opportunity, and this grant has really helped us expand that for students. Perkins is at almost $23,000. The Perkins Grant funds a lot of our business programs. The Expand Grant is one that we applied for. We have not heard back yet if we are recipients. That's about $100,000. And that grant is for some new career, technical career programs. We're excited if we receive that grant, we'll be able to, again, just provide some opportunities for our students in very specific career fields. The Steelcase Education Grant we also applied for. We have not heard back about this grant yet. It's $132,000. And this grant is for furniture and resources at the middle and high school. And what it is, it's furniture that's movable and a flexible classroom space so that students can work in groups, work in teams, conduct presentations, and the furniture and the resources allow for just different types of learning structures. So that would be a great grant to receive. And then the Stop the Bleed grant is one we also applied for, have not heard back yet. $1,000 there, and that is for training and resources for teachers and students for a Stop the Bleed program. And at this time, what I'd like to do is turn it over to our business administrator, Mr. Kokoska, who's going to really go over the revenues, expenditures, and exactly what this budget looks like for our taxpayers. Mr. Kokoska?
Thank you, Mrs. Zurcher. Next slide, Brian, please. Okay. All right, the first slide you have there is the revenue. A couple of points of interest. The good thing is most of the items that are listed under the 2021 are pretty much guaranteed with one exception. The first line, that's money that we already have in our bank, so that money won't go anywhere. And the second line is the same thing. That money is ours right now, so that won't go anywhere. The local tax levy, this is what we are proposing. I don't believe that amount will change unless the governor decides to do something there. This will be the local tax levy that the residents in the town will pay. The state aid, as you can see, that's a significant increase. Mrs. Zurcher indicated that we aren't certain as to what the amounts will be. One would hope that it would be the amount that's listed on this spreadsheet. However, as you can see, that's a good portion that we did receive an increase from the previous year. Keeping in mind around $300,000 of that amount was dedicated towards the preschool expansion grant. Medicaid reimbursement, I feel pretty comfortable with that because that's federal money. They'll just keep printing more money. So I don't believe that number will change. So I feel very comfortable with that. Miscellaneous income, although it's a small amount, last year, if anyone looked at their bank accounts, the interest rates that you were getting on your money was a little higher. I don't think with loan rate's 0%. The return on our money will be that great, but I feel pretty comfortable that the 30,000 is a comfortable number. And the last item, the capital reserve, that's already money in the bank. So no matter how much we get, if we do get reduced in our state aid, the capital reserve money is set aside already for the projects that Mr. Searcher indicated, which was the bridge and the parking lot. So we're pretty good there. So again, pretty good shape other than the state aid. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Next slide, Brian. Okay, the expenditure side. The good thing is you can see your budget's balanced, so that's always a good thing. Salaries, this is you see an increase there. Part of it, or a good percentage of it, is associated with the new staff that Mr. Searcher indicated. Health benefits, it is what it is. We all know what our health benefits are, what the premiums could be. There is some discussion, for those who may not have heard, that the Senate, along with the governor, seems to have a plan in place starting July 1st, but no later than August 1st, supposedly, that will save the state, along with local districts and the NJEA, significant amount of money. This budget is not based on that because we were not aware of the program at the time. So we're just waiting with bated breath as far as how much the district's going to be saving as it relates to health benefits. If we save anything at all, I'm a little skeptical on that. But again, we'll see how this plays out. Out of tuition for out-of-district placements, as Mrs. Searcher indicated, it's cost savings for special ed students. This is a combination of some students who have been brought back to the district, and then we have some students who have termed out. So as you can see, there is a nice little savings that we have there. For those who are interested in charter schools, as you can see, we have a reduction in this year coming up of around $56,000. The offset to bring some of the students back, you will see an increase in the special educational costs. This was a program that the board approved last year, and looks like we're doing it this year for the special ed program. And again, the last but not least, again, the PEA grant is the preschool grant that is from the state. As you can see, an increase of around $300,000. Next slide, Brian. Okay, I'm sure you all know, as far as residents of town, you've had your homes reassessed, and now the pool of money as far as the value of all your homes have increased significantly. So as you can see there, your total tax base evaluation amount there, and of course your average and your household has now changed significantly. I think last year was like 83,000. Now it's up to 291,000 for an average home in South River. The amounts to reflect there indicate what the average person would pay on a household of 291 based on the tax increase. And there's your yearly amount of $73.44 with a month of $6.12. Next page, Brian. Next slide, please. Okay. Again, the amount that we need to raise is the 16.8. Last year, the taxes evaluation was $1.17. This year, it'll be $1.20. So again, that's where you get your 3-cent increase in your real estate taxes for the school. Next slide, Brian. Any questions? I'll defer it back to Mrs. Searcher.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Kokoska. If there are any questions from members of the board, and shortly from members of the public. Questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll turn it back over to our board president, Mrs. Urbanek.
Thank you, Ms. Searcher. At this time, I will ask Ms. Lell to make a motion for the approval of the budget.
Be it resolved that the Finance Committee, upon recommendation of the superintendent, recommends that the 2021 budget be approved, and I so move.
Motion by Ms. Lell. Is there a second to that?
Second. Second.
Second by Mr. Nielsen. Roll call.
Mr. Bazak? Is he on mute, Brian?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bazak. Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Budson?
Yes.
Mrs. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. Lell?
Yes.
Mr. Nielsen?
Yes.
Mr. Rosanno?
Yes.
Mr. Rashatar?
Yes.
Mrs. Urbanek?
Yes. Thank you. The motion passes. At this time, we are going to open up the meeting to the public. The public may address any concern or comment they have for the board. Once again, please state your name and address in the chat section of the Zoom meeting, and please keep your comments a 10 limit. And I'll ask Mr. Dougherty to please check the chat section and let us know if there are any questions from the public. Mr. Dougherty, do you see any questions from the public?
No, not at this time.
Okay, we're going to close the public portion and we will entertain a motion to adjourn this
Nielsen. Beck.
meeting. Motion by Mr. Nielsen, second by Ms. Beck. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. So we are going to our regular meeting at this time, and we will do that by having the statement of adequate notice. In compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Laws of 1975 of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting of the South River Board of Education was provided in the following manner. On April 21st, 2020, the notice was delivered to the office of the South River Borough Clerk and posted at the Board of Education Administration Building. On April 21st, 2020, the notice was faxed mailed to the following newspapers: Home News Tribune, Sentinel. On April 21st, 2020, the notice was posted at the South River Borough Clerk's office. Due to the state of emergency declared the state of New Jersey and the United States government regarding COVID-19, this meeting is being held by way of video conference in order for the Board of Education to conduct its business. This meeting is being conducted by way of Zoom, and a link to the meeting invitation has been posted to the district website so the public may join and provide comment. Upon joining the meeting, all participants will have their audio muted. If anyone from the public would like to be recognized during open comment portions of the meeting, they may do so by using the chat feature in Zoom. Here, members of the public must send their name and address to the meeting host, Brian Dougherty. You will be recognized to speak by the host at the appropriate time, and your audio will be enabled. Participants for open comment will be called in the order they were received. This meeting is being recorded, and a link to the meeting will be made available on the district website upon completion. Roll call, Mr. Kokoschka.
Mr. Bazak?
Here.
Mrs. Beck?
Here.
Mr. Budson?
Here.
Mrs. Bush?
Here.
Mrs. Lell?
Here.
Mr. Nielsen?
Here.
Mr. Rosanno?
Here.
Mr. Rajatar?
Here.
Mrs. Urbanek?
Here.
Ms. Cassiano?
Ms. Cassiano has been excused. Thank you. Moving on, under Board Secretary, Mr. Kokoska, we have the minutes.
That's your, Mrs. Rannick.
We do have the regular public meeting revised minutes from January 23rd, 2020. We have the regular public meeting revised minutes from February 27th, 2020. And we have the minutes from the regular public meeting on March 16th, 2020, which was a combined pre-meeting and regular meeting. Board members, the minutes?
Move to accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion by
Rosanna.
Mr., who made the motion? I'm sorry.
Rosanna.
Mr. Rosanno, and who second?
Bezak?
Mr. Bazak. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Use of facilities, Mr. Kokoska.
There are no use of facilities for this meeting.
Okay, thank you. Financial reports, Ms. Lau.
The financial report was made available by Mr. Kokoska. So the Finance Committee recommends that the report of the Board Secretary and the Treasurer of School Monies for February 2020 be approved, and I so move.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lau, second by Mr. Rosanno. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. At this time, we are going to move into the superintendent's report. Ms. Zercher.
Thank you, Mrs. Urbanik. I usually just speak to what is happening in the district, but I think today and through this format, I'm just going to read straight from my report. In case my audio comes in and out, you'll know exactly what was said just by reading the actual report itself. So forgive me if I'm looking down, as like I said, I'm going to read straight from my report. The first item I'd like to address for this meeting is our school performance reports. Our school performance reports for the school year 18-19, so that's not the current school year, that's last year's school year, are now available on our district's website in the curriculum tab. The New Jersey Department of Education has been working to simplify this report and make it more accessible to parents and families. The full report is lengthy, but a one-page summary is available to review achievement and growth. The performance data measures student achievement as assessed by NJSLA. That's a standardized assessment that students take in language arts and math. And other information in the report is related to demographics, attendance, teacher experience, and enrollment. Of note is our high school's performance report, which shows a significant increase in our graduation rate, which for the 18-19 school year is now above the state average. Please visit our website for the summary report and NJDOE's website in the family tab for the full-length report. Please also be reminded that due to our continued school closure, there's no standardized testing being conducted for the 19-20 school year. The next item on my report is an overview of our distance learning initiatives. We continue to engage in distance learning as our schools are closed at least until May 15th, pending some updates from our governor. To date, well over half of our district students have been assigned a Chromebook device to use at home. So we've been able to provide a Chromebook pretty virtually to each of our families. We've also signed up approximately 20 families to Comcast's free Wi-Fi access, and we've provided over 20, I believe we're almost at about 30 hotspot devices to families who didn't have access to the internet, and of course need it for instruction at this time. Our teachers provide instruction through a variety of ways. They use Google Classroom, where they post, collect, and provide feedback on assignments. They pre-record lessons, and they also conduct face-to-face virtual lessons through Zoom, just like we're doing right now for this meeting. We have asked our teachers to designate daily office hours twice each day so that students and parents may access help and support. It's been difficult for our teachers to gauge the amount of work and assignments that they assign. So please be patient, as this process is very new to our teachers as well. In many cases, teachers have already adjusted their approach based on the feedback we received from students and parents. And we therefore encourage you to reach out to your child's teacher or principal if we need to consider any further adjustment or make modifications for your child's program. We're maintaining flexibility and a no-harm approach because we understand that many families are currently faced with various challenges. So please don't hesitate to reach out to your child's counselor, the teacher, the principal, if there's something going on that's challenging your student with this distance learning. We've been addressing those issues one by one with each of our families and making sure that this is working as best as we can under the circumstances. School events and celebrations. I've certainly received a lot of questions in this regard, and I actually have a meeting scheduled tomorrow with some high school parents who just wanted to talk about some opportunities, maybe some optional approaches if we are not back in school for graduation. And I'll report on the status and what we come away with from that meeting a little bit later on. But as of now, we've canceled all events that are up to May 15th. That included our prom. We were really sad to cancel that. And our senior trip, which was also scheduled for the third week in May. Students were going to Disney World, which is currently closed. So we canceled that as well, along with several other field trips and so on. In the event that we do not return to school during the school year, we're going to do our best to just be creative, to find safe solutions, to celebrate our students' accomplishments. And I'm hoping to be able to, again, formulate some ideas, not in isolation, but with feedback from our students and feedback from our parents. I think if we all come together with some ideas that seem plausible and reasonable, we can do something really to celebrate what's happening for our students right now. As the parent of a 2020 graduate, I understand completely what students are facing, what parents are facing, grandparents. So we're definitely going to find a way to be creative and do what we need to do for kids. So definitely stay posted on our district website, our Facebook page. That's the best way to access our information and updates. Food and device distribution. We are now conducting weekly food and device distributions. These will be scheduled at least until May 15th, every Tuesday, weather permitting. So if we notice on probably around Sunday, we make that call. If we notice that the weather is not going to be favorable, since we do the distribution outdoors, then we will go to an alternate date, which is Wednesday, if that's weather permitting, or Thursday. We send out, as soon as we know what we're doing, we send that out through text messaging on our district website, a phone call, as well as email. So please make sure you're aware of when the distributions are taking place. At this time, we are giving food distribution to our families on free and reduced lunch, and devices to families that are communicating to us that it's they have a barrier to distance learning because of a lack of device. We've been hearing a lot of situations regarding devices at home that need to be shared, etc. So we can definitely work with you and your family. Please come by, pick up a device. On distribution days, you can also drop off working papers for signatures. High school students, if you're looking to have a working paper signed, we have administrators on site that can do that for you. So please don't hesitate to stop by for that service as well. Recreation areas, you may have heard that the governor is about to open access to parks, but please know that our district recreational areas remain closed until further notice. I did check with the health department, the local CDC, and these do need to remain closed as the governor's order does not include playgrounds, which is what's on our recreational facilities, as well as athletic fields, which is also what our recreational facilities are made up of. So these remain closed until further notice, and we're hoping that this will be passed us soon and that we can get back to normal, get some kids playing and active again soon. And the next portion of my superintendent's report is dedicated to our district goals and updating the board and the public on the activities towards the goals that have been taking place. So goal number 1 is related to community relations. And the goal itself is to incorporate varied correspondence methods and increase outreach efforts for parents and families with communication barriers. So a couple of years ago, we initiated a goal to have better communication with our community as a whole. This past year, 1920, we decided to narrow that goal a little bit to really addressing the needs of those families that for whatever reason can't communicate with us. Maybe they have a Wi-Fi issue, a language barrier, etc. And so these actions were specifically targeted for that purpose. So of course we have our ERAM, our Connected, our website, and those can be translated into various languages. We have above 95% participation rate right now in our Connect Ed. And the way Connect Ed works is when you sign up to receive messages, you can actually sign up and list what your preferred language is. So if you're getting the email or you're getting the phone message in English, maybe a neighbor of yours has signed up to receive it in Spanish or Portuguese, and that will be the language they're receiving it in. So that's a great feature for our community. Parent Portal and Connected are now part of the registration process. So now any new student who registers into the district gets enrolled in these communication programs. That's new to our registration. As well as students that are coming into preschool or kindergarten. So they're starting their school experience already connected to the district, which has been a great asset. We have translators on site. We've been doing a lot of recruiting for bilingual, multilingual staff. We now have at the middle school a trilingual child study team member. Our new counselor at the high school is also bilingual. So we're doing our best to make sure that every single one of our schools is staffed with bilingual, or if we get really lucky, trilingual staff. This year we hosted our first DSL family night, and believe it or not, that was back in March when everything just sort of started to grow of concern with COVID-19, but we still had over 200 families who came to the event and participated. It was the last big event that we had in the district, and we were so excited that so many students and families were there with us that night. We've conducted parent academies on various topics. And we have a family advocate. Our family advocate, Irina, is funded through our title grants, and she is a great person to act as a liaison between the district and parents who have some of these barriers. She helps our parents complete free and reduced lunch applications, and so we've had an increase in that regard. And she helps our parents access the right people who they need to talk to if they ever have a concern or something that they need from the district. So that has been a tremendous asset. She's at every single one of our distributions, and she communicates to us special needs that specific families might have, and then we work with her to address those. So that's been really great for the district. Our social media pages have really high participation and provide ongoing district updates and information. Goal number 2 is about instruction and learning. And we're looking to implement programs and practices to ensure the social and emotional well-being and learning of our students. And in that regard, you may notice on our district website, we now have a wellness tab with several resources for parents and community members. We have a contract with Effective School Solutions to provide mental health services at our middle school and elementary school. We allocated grant funding to responsive classroom resources, which is how our teachers are learning to do morning meetings at the primary school and elementary school. We have social justice courses at our middle school and high school. Those are new this year for 1920. Our K-5 students have a PE wellness course once every 8 days. We have the RAM runway that has been servicing the needs of our families and students, and really maintaining the well-being of our high school students who might need access to clothing. That's really important when you're a teenager. We have vaping educational programs for students and staff, as well as vape detectors that were installed at the middle school and high school. Goal number 3 is to provide students with pathways and the needed skills to succeed in post-secondary opportunities and careers. So we're looking at the continuation of new courses. I talked a little bit about that during the budget presentation. Students have provided very positive feedback on the electives that we've been adding to the program of studies. Our one-to-one devices at the high school, of course, give a lot of access to our high school students. We established the Social Studies Honor Society at the request of our students and teachers. We provided additional AP resources for teachers and students. Additional dual enrollment courses, the continuation and expansion of the alternative high school program that has grown since last year as well. We established our graduation rate committee to make sure that the graduation rate that we are enjoying this year continues to maintain or grow even further. And we've been focusing a lot on STEM career programs and activities for the elementary school and middle school. And I talked a bit about the Acellus grant in the budget presentation in that regard. The last goal is to continue to use our district data to align fiscal allocations, how we spend our money, and to align that with the identified needs of students and priorities. We purchased the new language arts program, K through 5, not K through 8. We'll make a correction to that. It's K through 5. We have additional staffing in ESL and special education. We have a reduction in students that we're sending to out-of-district programs. And we monitor iReady usage. iReady is a K-8 program that is a significant cost, and that's funded through our title grants. But it's about $40,000 or so that we allocate from our grant funding. And so we want to make sure that that program is actually useful, helpful to students, and that it's being used on a regular basis. And then we also continue the progression of foundations at the primary school. This was our last year of the program being new to any one grade level, to our second graders. And so those are the actions that we've been taking towards our goals. And we feel pretty good about what we've been able to put in place and how we've been able to meet the needs of students and families. Any questions or comments on any of the goals? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to turn my next portion of the superintendent's report to Assistant Superintendent Dr. Trevisano, who's going to go over the NJSLA science results. We're required to provide these results to you as a board and to the public.
Good evening, members of the Board of
Excuse
Education.
me, if I may just ask if Brian or Dan could help out Mr. Rizzano. He got kicked off the meeting somehow, and he needs some technical assistance getting back on. He's been sending me some text, so I don't know how anyone can help him, but any help would be appreciated. Thank you. Please, Dr. Trevisano.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brannick. This is a presentation of last year's NJSLA science results. As a reminder, this will be the first set of data that we had received on this. The state has changed over from the original science testing, which was a bio end of course exam, a grade 4 and a grade 8 exam, to different ages, more comprehensive assessments, such as the change was made from grade 4 to 5. And in addition, it's also from a biology concentrated exam to a grade 11 comprehensive exam, theoretically assessing biology, chemistry, physics, and earth science standards and content. So this is a result of that. There has been a number of discussions and potential modifications at the state level regarding the testing. in terms of the style of test, the questions of the test. So this is a snapshot of how the district had performed on this particular assessment. The slide you see in front of you, unlike the SLA for English and math, there are only 4 levels of proficiency. For the math and the English, there are 5 levels of proficiency. So anything here proficient or advanced is considered to be, if you would give it a passing grade, that would be passing. Anything that is minimal or limited would be below passing. So as a district, we have our percentages are listed for grades 5, 8, and 11 in each of these as compared to the state numbers right next to them. Again, this is the first year that they've done this test. This is the first year of the assessment and the first year that they're working out all of the, if you would, issues or testing bugs for this assessment. Below that, I create a small chart, gives you a snapshot of the percent passing in our district as compared to the percent passing in the state. And what you'll notice in the state numbers, this would be every district across the state, and we're still looking at passing percentages statewide of less than 30%, and in some cases less than 20% for grades 5, 8, and 11. Next slide, Brian. This is a breakdown demographically of all of our students. This was done to do not necessarily a comparison, if you would, but an idea of demographically the number of students in each of these subgroups that take the test, that participate in the test, separated out by general ed, special ed, free and reduced lunch, gender, as well as ethnic backgrounds. So this is just your totals. On the next page would be your passing percentages in, again, each of those demographic subgroups. These numbers here, although broken out, they are percentages of the groups in each of your proficiency levels: minimal, limited, proficient, and advanced. This would be South River related percentages and not state demographic percentages. I didn't have the access to the state demographic percentages when this slide was created. However, this is the snapshot district-wide of every student in grade 5, 8, and 11 that did take the test. On the next page is a graphic representation of each of them. Again, this would be your proficient and advanced proficient broken down by both race, gender, and then by any program, if you would, free and reduced, 504s, LEP, limited English proficiency, your special education population, as well as your general education population. But this pictorial representation gives you a better snapshot of how our students are performing on this particular assessment, rather than just looking at a numerical representation. So at this point, this will be the fastest assessment presentation that I'll ever give you. Are there any questions about any of this that I can answer for you? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Trevisano. And with that concludes my superintendent's report for this month. Thank you, Mr. Urban.
Thank you. Do any board members have any questions on the superintendent's report or either of the presentations? Okay, so at this time, we are going to open up the meeting.
Mr. Bannock, I'm
Yes.
sorry to interrupt. We need a motion to accept the report.
Oh, I thought we had one. So can we have a motion for the superintendent's report?
Nielsen, motion accepted as read.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Nielsen and we have a second. Was that Mr. Budzen?
Sure.
Fine. You should unmute everybody at this point.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Well, at this time, we are going to open up the meeting to the reception of visitors, and the public may address agenda items only at this time. There will be another public portion at the end of this meeting where the public can address any matters to come before the board. Please state your name and address in the chat section of Zoom, and please keep your comments to a 10-minute time limit. Is there anyone in the waiting room?
I just got Mr. Rosano back. We just got Mr. Rosano back in. I don't see anybody in the chat room at this time.
Okay, so we're going to close the public portion, and we are going to move on to the consent resolution. Mr. Kokoska.
Thank you. The South River Board of Education, by means of a consent resolution, adopt various resolutions of a routine and non-controversial nature at one time. Whereas the below listed resolutions are hereby adopted by said Board of Education in whole, as if the same were individually acted upon. Under the President of the Board, 5.2 through 5.5, Finance 8.1 through 8.28, Policy and Legislation items 11.1 through 11.3, and Human Resource items 12.1 through 12.11.
Thank you. Can we have a motion on that?
Move the consent resolution.
Second. Rosanna, is there a second?
I'll second that, Beck.
Thank you very much, Ms. Beck. Any questions or comments that anybody needs to indicate?
Yeah, I need
Ready
to
to abstain on
abstain.
any?
I need to abstain at 8.3, and I can't find the one that.
5.4, Kevin.
5.4.
Thank
5.4,
you.
Mr. Nielsen.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Okay, so with the abstentions as listed, roll call, please.
Mr. Bazak,
Yes.
Mrs. Beck,
Yes.
Mr. Budson,
Yes.
Mrs. Bush,
Yes.
Mrs. Lell,
Yes.
Mr. Nielsen,
Yes.
Mr. Rosano,
Yes.
Mr. Rashitar,
Yes.
Mrs. Urbanek.
Yes. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the committee reports. The first committee report, athletics, Mr. Budson.
Well, because the schools are closed, there's no report this month.
Thank you. Under buildings and grounds, Ms. Beck.
Sure, we all have received a report from the superintendent's report from the buildings department. And they've all been doing ongoing work that normally has to be done, plus extra. And they've also been helping out with the administration and the IT department with the weekly pickups. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you. Finance, Ms. Lell.
There were 3 revisions since our last meeting and 4 additions, so I would just like to note that information for the record. 8.7 was a revision for plumbing services contract revised to reject. 8.15 was revised dates in the resolution.
Ms. Lell, may I just for the record, I just want to clarify something on that plumbing resolution. There were 2 actions taken by the board. One was to reject UHA's plumbing's bid due to they did not comply with the bid. However, the board then awarded the next responsible bidder on Magic Touch. So it wasn't a reject, it was just 2 actions on a particular item.
Thank you, Mr. Kukuska. And
Okay.
then 8.20, we had a revised amount in the resolution, and then the new resolutions are listed as 8.25, Addition, approve, submit ESEA Consolidated Amendment Application and Grant Funds for the fiscal year 2020. 8.26 was approve, submit preschool application and grant funds fiscal year 2021. 8.27 was addition, approve, award 2020-2021 RFP number 20-03, the Substitute Staffing Services Contract, ESS Support Services LLC. And 8.28 was the last one, addition, approved contract, E-Rate Consulting, Inc., E-Rate Services for the 2021 school year, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Llewellyn. Those were all approved under the consent resolution. Under instruction, Mr. Rosanna.
Madam President, there's nothing new since our last meeting.
Thank you. And Mr. Parton, can you give us an update on negotiations?
There is no further update since Monday. We are waiting until logistics allow us to get together with the SREA and NJEA and iron out some final issues.
Thank you. Policy and legislation, Ms. Bush.
Hi, everyone. No changes since Monday night's meeting.
Thank you. Human Resources, Mr. Nielsen.
Madam President, nothing new tonight. Thank you.
And committee report on safety and risk management, Mr. Bezak.
Thank you, Ms. Urbanek. I have nothing on tonight's agenda, but however, as I mentioned on Monday evening, on April 1st, the Safety and Risk Management Committee held a meeting to discuss the safety procedures within the school district. And I am proud to report that the South River District is in compliance with
Thank you.
all
Yes.
I'm sorry. Could you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Ray.
Yeah, go ahead, Ray.
I'm sorry. I
Thank
started saying I
you.
was
School
proud to
community relation. Yeah, go ahead, Ray. You kept cutting in and out for me. I don't know what that for.
Cindy, you're cutting in and out for me too.
Mr. Bezak, I would go ahead and repeat your statement.
I'm sorry. Okay. Could you hear me now?
We can hear you, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just want to mention that on April 1st, the Safety and Risk Management Committee held a meeting to discuss the safety procedures within the school district. And I am proud to report that the South River District is in compliance with all training and drills as required by the state of New Jersey. And I also want to thank Ms. Zurcher, the administration, the staff, and the South River Police Department for continuously working together to ensure the safety of all students and staff within the district. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Parton, I think we have to get Mrs. Urbanek back on. Can you take over the agenda?
It shows that I am on.
Oh, there you are. Sorry, could not hear you.
Yeah, I think we need to discuss this platform after this public meeting. So school community relations, Mr. Rashatar.
Thank you, Mrs. Urbanek. As mentioned on Monday, the committee met and finalized the Wall of Fame committee. And to that end, there was a press release explaining the Wall of Fame committee and seeking nominations.
Thank you. School Board Borough Council Liaison Committee, Mr. Nielsen.
Again, with this virus and everything that's going on in the world, it's really tough to get a meeting going. Hopefully this will all end soon and we can get back to normality and I'll be able to have something in the future. Other than that, nothing now, Mrs. President, Madam President.
Thank you. PTA liaison, Ms. Beck.
Yes, I have an update from all of the different PTAs. First of all, the primary school PTA, we met last night via Zoom. There were 11 of us attending the meeting, and we discussed with all the uncertain times with the school, when the school would reopen, as holding events, big events like Fun Day. So they've decided to spend the monies that they've raised to give every student and teacher a yearbook this year. Instead of having to decide who can afford it or not, they've decided that's how they're going to spend their money. So everybody will have a yearbook for themselves. They're also putting information in an upcoming ERAM for anybody who would like to put a booster in that yearbook. Their next meeting is scheduled for May 27th at 8 p.m. via Zoom. Anyone interested can either reach out to myself or the PTA directly to get added to the list for the link once it's available. Then the elementary school met very early on and everything going on at the beginning of April. So they aren't as far along as everybody else, but I did talk to their president this afternoon about some things. So there'll be some updates in their meeting next week on the 7th at 6 o'clock. But they had Gertrude Hawk fundraiser, and they had that one that was successful. And the PTA used their own funds to have the orders shipped directly to each of the students' houses, so they can then distribute to whomever orders from them. Unfortunately, they both had to have canceled their Mother's Day plant sales. And again, their Zoom meeting will be May 7th at 6 p.m. And anybody wants to attend that one, reach out to myself or the board, their PTA directly, and we'll get you on the list. The middle school PTA, they did not have an April meeting. They canceled it with everything going on. They're working on a date for a May Zoom meeting. And once they have that, again, if you want to be involved, reach out to me or them. And the high school PTSA last week had their last meeting of the school year via Zoom. They elected their 2020-21 board. They received scholarship applications and discussed the purchase of the high school gift from 2019-2020. And this concludes my PTA report.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
South River Public Library liaison, Mr. Budzen.
For adults, and on Wednesdays they have family yoga for kids. And he also mentioned that if you go on their website, you can see all the internet stuff that's linked to the library, which you can take part in. And there's some classes you could even take. And that's all I have.
Thank you. South River Foundation for Educational Excellence Liaison, Mr. Rashitar.
Thank you, Mrs. Urbanek. As mentioned on Monday, the committee met last week via Zoom. The one important thing that we would like to remind all the seniors that the deadline for scholarship applications to be submitted is May 15th. And also, I think it's worth repeating that the foundation would like to really compliment the entire district staff, from the superintendent all down to the teachers and the students also, on how they're dealing with this current emergency situation. That's it. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Parton, do you have an attorney's report?
I do not have any updates since we talked on Monday.
Right, thank you very much. Is there any old or new business to come before the board by any board members?
I just want to take an opportunity to thank Mr. Doherty, who helped us get this meeting together today, except for that minor glitch right there in the middle. It was a stormy night. We were nervous about everybody's internet accessibility, but I just want to thank him and his department, Mr. Scampora as well. for really helping us get all of this together. Thank you.
Cool.
Agreed. There are quite some challenges to this whole situation. Now can we have Ms. Lell a motion for the payment of bills?
Finance Committee recommends that all bills presented, having been certified by the School Business Administrator Board Secretary, paid as listed, and I so move.
There's a motion by Ms. Lell. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Nielsen. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So at this time, we will have our reception of visitors, and the public may address any concern or comment that they have for the board. Please state your name and address in the chat section of Zoom, and please keep your comments to a 10-minute time limit. And again, we need to wait to give people time to type some things in if they want to.
I don't see anyone typing anything at this point, Mrs. Urbanek.
All right, thank you. We will then close the public portion and we will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Nielsen.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen,
Second,
second by Mr.
John
Budson.
Budson, yes.
Got it. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting has concluded. Thank you very much.